When I went to Nagoya, Japan, which is very close to Toyota's headquarters, I expected to see a lot of Toyotas on the road, but instead I saw a lot of cars with these emblems I didn't recognize. But it turns out that is a Toyota emblem. It's the Toyota Crown emblem. But in the US, Toyota Crowns don't have special emblems. They have the same oval Toyota emblem that all the other Toyotas have. But apparently, in Japan, their tradition is to have different emblems, brands, and even stores for different kinds of cars from the same manufacturer in order to appeal to different kinds of customers. This might sound familiar to you, because that's exactly what Toyota has done with Lexus outside Japan since 1989. But why does Toyota have more emblems in Japan than outside Japan? Well, in 1955, Toyota released the Toyota Crown, which was and still is a luxury sedan, and it's well known in Japan for its use as government cars, police cars, and taxis. But then, 2 years later in 1957, everything changed when Corona hit. No, not that Corona, the Toyota Corona. But that didn't stop Toyota from social distancing from it, since it was smaller and more economical. It was sold under a completely different store, a whole different sales network, known as the Toyopet stores. The idea was that the Toyota store would focus on selling premium cars like the Crown, while the Toyopet store would sell lower-end cars and trucks. That way, the prestigious brand identity of cars like the Crown wouldn't get muddied by the presence of economical cars and trucks on the same show floor. This bubble-era auto sales tradition of having different brands for each Japanese manufacturer would continue from the 1950s, and by 2020, there would be 4 different kinds of Toyota stores in Japan. There were the Toyota stores and the Toyopet stores, like I just mentioned. There's also the Toyota Corolla store, which was originally the Toyota Publica store, and that focused on people who had never owned cars before. And in Japan, Corollas also have their own unique emblem, just like the Crown. There's also the Toyota Nets store, which was originally the Toyota Auto store, which sells sportier cars, and they also have their own emblem. And apparently they renamed to NETS in 1998, and apparently that's an acronym for Network of Energetic Teams for Zenith, to be hip with the kids, I guess. Amazing. So 4 stores, all under one Toyota manufacturer with distinct characteristics, target markets, brands, and emblems. Since 2020 though, any Toyota can be sold from any of these stores. One reason for this that was said in a blog post on a website called JapaneseNostalgicCar.com, which with a name like that I have absolute trust in. They hypothesize that after the Japanese bubble economy burst in the 90s, car purchases went from 7.78 million cars in 1990 to 5.23 million cars in 2020, which is a reduction of over a third, which might have made having all of those different stores uneconomical. So, to explain why there were so many different stores and brands to begin with, you could reverse that logic and say that because car ownership in Japan exploded from the 50s to the 80s, and that Toyota had 50% of the new car market in Japan in the 80s, that having only one kind of store and only one emblem for every Toyota car would have hurt sales, because what's the appeal in driving the same car as everyone else on the road? But of course, it's also more economical to have all of these cars being manufactured with parts that work with each other and can be mixed and matched, or at least reused if needed. This situation, where one car manufacturer has 2 vehicles with similar parts but sold as different brands, is called rebadging or brand engineering. But it isn't always economical and can cause something called cannibalism if the brands are too similar, which is where the car brands are competing for the same customers and end up hurting each other's sales. Many car brands went under around the world in the 2000s, and the consolidation of the different Toyota stores can be seen as a continuation of that. But there's still a lingering question. Why is there any need to have separate brands and emblems of cars in the first place, even if most of the parts underneath are the same? This kind of question lands squarely in the field of applied psychology. Looking at one paper on the subject, the authors say, symbolic brand benefits are related to processes of self-expression and identity management. In other words, brands contain the ability to communicate relevant information about the person who is using them and his or her role in the social group of relevance. A violinist who is playing a Stradivarius might, for instance, be perceived by others as one of the best of his or her kind. It's more or less common knowledge, but the car you drive and the emblem it has is a way to express yourself and manage your identity. And if you're a driver in Nagoya, Japan and live close to Toyota's headquarters and maybe even work there, you don't want to just have your Toyota have the same emblem as everyone else. You want it to be a Toyota Crown. Well, that's about it. I'm obviously not a car guy, but I thought it would be worth a little bit of research. Anyway, do you think about car emblems or even notice them? Do you identify with the car that you drive, or is it just a way to get where you need to go? Let me know. See you later.